Are you looking at this as a number one contender spot? Because we've been going back and forth. Nobody's officially named it that, but is that your mindset?
What was the question?
That this is the number one contender fight to fight Valentina.
I think it all depends on what happens Saturday night. Like it depends on my performance. If JoJo and I have like a fight where we just go out and look at each other, then like no, it has to be a good performance.
Give us some insight to your mindset and your momentum, because you're on a 4-fight win streak. And it seems like every time we see you, you get better and better, and your striking is way more crisp.
Yeah, that's my mindset, just to get better between every fight. And I'm working with such a great team right now. Like they've really invested a lot in me, and so I invest a lot back in them. I spend all my time training. Sometimes like people ask about like, what shows do you watch? What other hobbies do you have? And it's like none. I literally spend all my time training, eating, or recovering.
Have you been working on your ground game? Because the last time you got the submission, we like used to see you put them hands on people, but you choked her out last time.
Yeah, it was good to get a submission on my record. I'm an extremely well-rounded fighter. I'm good anywhere the fight goes, and I'm really proud of that. There's not really any holes in my game. No matter what you're good at, you're going to have a hard time doing what you're good at when you fight me, no matter what you're good at.
Do you take it personal and see like people, even though you're getting better, people still, she's not ready for the big stage, that people keep underestimating you? Does that kind of get you going?
I don't think anybody has said that about me in a long time. I've been on a couple really big pay-per-views now, and I think people are starting to take notice that I'm a really good fighter. I'm one of the best in the world. And I don't think anybody has said that about me in a long time. If they have, then they're a hater. Like, it's not, I wouldn't even take it personal, because it's like they just don't know what they're looking at.
And what challenges does Joanne possess that's going to be difficult to deal with her being another elite best fighter in that division?
JoJo's good at a lot of stuff. She keeps a good high pace. She throws a lot of kicks really well, especially like good long straight kicks, like her teeps and stuff. So stuff like that is going to be a bit of a challenge, but we've trained hard for it. I think she's going to try to clinch, and I love the clinch. So I'm really actually very excited to see what this fight looks like in the clinch.
And final question for me, how big a deal is to come out the chute and set that tone? Because we've seen her, when she gets off to a slow start, not be the fight up to her capability. We're also seeing her get up to a fast start and dictate the pace of the whole fight. So how big a deal is that first round to come up in there and bust in the face and kind of set that tone?
I think almost all fights, that's important. There's not a lot of fights that I would go into where it's like, the first round we'll just kind of give away. You know what I mean? Like, it's only a 3-round fight, and so you only have 15 minutes. It's really actually not that long. And if you let the first 3 or 4 slip by, you're playing catch up. So I think in almost all fights, it's important to get started right away.
Lauren, back here. You mentioned kind of the haters right there, and are you feeling disrespected by the odds a little bit, because they have her slightly favored right now?
No, I mean, I don't take any of that personally. Like, I love winning people money. So people always message me after I fight. They're like, you won me a bunch of money. I'm like, I know, brother. I won a bunch of money too.
Definitely a good feeling. And I mean, you've had such a great career to this point. You were the first Invicta Bantamweight champion. People, I think, forget about that. But fought so many good people. Has there been a point for you that you would say has been the biggest learning experience, though, so far?
I've had a couple. I think the 2 that really stand out in my mind is that, one, The Ultimate Fighter was a really big learning experience for me. I really learned about the importance of staying positive and staying in the moment. And, really practicing those concepts has really increased my fight IQ. It's made my entire life better, actually, inside and outside the ring. And so as hard of a time as that was for me, and as humiliated as I felt on The Ultimate Fighter, it actually really was a really big turning point in my career. The other thing I think that I've really changed, or that was a big turning point for me, I guess, was when I decided that, I have 4 losses in my career. My record is 14-4, and there was a time where people were like, oh, she's at the end of her career. She's kind of on a downhill slope. And I just decided, like, to myself, kind of, that it wasn't. It was like, I've always failed forward, I've always failed trying big things. I've always failed on big stages, and those aren't really failures. And I think when I decided that, my whole mindset about my own career changed. And then when my mindset started to change, it changed the mindsets of the people around me, Yeah,
and some of those losses were, questionable too, right?
Yeah, I think, I'm 14. I'm like, what is my record in the UFC right now? It's like I don't even know, but like at least 3 of those losses could have easily been wins, you know? So like 3 out of 4 losses on my record, I could be like 17-1 right now. I can't math right now very well, but a lot of those losses were super close. And that was part of my mindset, you know, when I decided that. It's like, man, you have some like failures, but you've been failing forward. And so that's not really failure, is it?
And do you wish that you went to flyweight sooner in your career, or was it perfect time, you'd say?
It was perfect timing. Absolutely. It was 100% perfect timing to go to flyweight. It's taken me some, you know, I started my career at 145. I have some TKOs. I actually have TKOs in 3 different weight classes, yet I'm not on the pound for pound list, which I find very odd. But, you know, I started my career at 145, and as I've developed into a better athlete, I was able to go down those weight classes. I was not an athlete before I started MMA. Mixed martial arts was the first sport I ever played, and I picked it up when I was 26 years old. And it's taken some time, but it is in my DNA to be a great athlete. It's literally in my genetics. And now that I have a great team around me helping me with my nutrition and my strength and conditioning and monitoring my training to make sure that I'm not overtraining or undertraining, the athletic genes that I have are fully expressed.
And, you know, I mentioned your title in Invicta, and they got a show coming up this weekend. I'm just curious, you know, since you were in Invicta, they've adopted open scoring. And what are your thoughts on that whole premise? Would you like that yourself, or what are your thoughts on it?
I don't really have much to say about it, to be honest. I think I've only watched like one show maybe where they had it, and they were like showing it to the fighters' corners, but not to the fighter. I think it has some kinks maybe that still have to be worked out, but I think that just like with like the closed scoring, there's pros and cons to it, I'm sure.
Last thing for me, Lauren, what is your ideal outcome for this fight? I mean, obviously you want to dominate, but would you prefer a submission or a knockout? Like, how do you fantasize about it a little bit?
I would love to get another TKO. I love winning fights by pound and pound. I love it. I have a really nasty top game in jiu-jitsu. It's pretty good. And to me, that's what feels dominant, is when somebody's underneath me and I can feel them start to break. To me, it's just, it's the joy of my life.
Best of luck, Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren, I know you said that you liked the matchup, but I know you were thinking title shot as well, right? So when it wasn't a title shot, when it was this, was there any initial like upset or frustration at all?
No, because I knew that like the fight when it was booked with Cynthia could have been a #1 contender fight. I thought that was a great matchup. But then I knew when it was like when Lilia had to take the fight on short notice, I was like, you know, I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be title aspirations. I mean, it's hard to justify a title shot when you fight somebody on short notice like that, you know. And to be honest with you, I'm glad, because it would be hard for me to go in and fight Valentina and feel confident about that coming off of a win over, you know, a newcomer. She's probably a strawweight. And so really for my own benefit, I have to fight somebody tough. And I'm happy to fight a striker, you know, going in, because it's like I have to be able to pass these tests to get to the next level. So I don't think my head would be in a very good space at all if I was walking into a title fight right now. And I love my job. I love to fight. I'm happy to go in and do what I do. And I really think that, like, if I just focus on, you know, like enjoying the fight and having a good performance and doing my best in every moment, then things like wins and bonuses and title shots and everything else, that'll all be byproducts of me staying in the moment and doing my best.
I guess with all that said, do you feel like this is a #1 contender fight? I mean, are you saying you can't focus on that, but on paper, it sure looks like you win here. There's not a lot of other names, you know, to match up with. I would love to say that it's a #1 contender fight. I would like to say that, but I also know that in this sport, it's like anything could happen. So I could win this fight, but come out with such an injury that maybe, you know, I'm sitting on the shelf for 9 months, or maybe I win this fight and then Valentina gets injured. That's what happened to JoJo, right? She was lined up for the title, and then the champion got injured. It was totally outside her control. And to be honest with you guys, we haven't even passed all the COVID tests yet. So it's like we have like 9 people that have to all pass their COVID test before JoJo and I can even get in the cage. So it is hard for me to say like, oh yes, this is going to happen, and when I do this, this is next, because I learned years ago, man, you just can't do that in MMA.
Fair enough. What's the story of this Joanne Calderwood lookalike that you're training with? Did you seek somebody out to like look exactly like Joanne Calderwood?
She's a ringer, right? Yeah, she looks just like her. No, that's a woman that goes to our gym. She goes to Main Street, and she's super, super sweet, really kind. And I've seen her there since I started training at Main Street. And I've always thought, like, man, she looks just like JoJo Calderwood. Like, when I first saw her, I had to do a double take, you know? And so when this matchup came around, the whole camp, I was like, we have to get a picture with her. Like, we have to do this. And then luckily the last day that I was at the gym, she was there, and even the side of her head was shaved and stuff. And so, yeah, it came out pretty cool. It worked out just perfect.
I thought it was a Photoshop. I was like, I thought it was actually Joanne.
Dean Thomas wrote to me, and he was like, I'm confused. I said, we're trying to get the closest look possible.
That's fantastic. Last thing for me, I guess, what's the goal here? Like you said, I mean, you want to win. You want to go out there. You want to get a TKO. But I mean, do you feel like you've got to send a message? Because I feel like you have been battling for respect. You know, that sometimes you don't get the respect you deserve. So do you feel like you got to go out there and do something like spectacular, dominant, or is it just let's get a win and see where we go next?
I don't know, man. I feel like I can't control what people think of me. You know, I've never been able to. One of my coaches used to tell me I was the Rodney Dangerfield of women's MMA. You just can't get no respect. And it was like, when I was in Invicta, man, I was winning. I won, you know, I fought Caitlin Young on short notice. Nobody thought I had a chance. I fought Sarah D'Alelio. Nobody thought I had a chance. I fought Miriam Nakamoto. Nobody thought I had a chance. And even after those fights, I still wasn't getting a lot of respect. So it's like, I don't know. I can't really focus on it because I can't control. People are going to think what they're going to think. Sometimes on Twitter, people will say stuff about me, and like they're not even talking about the right fighter. You know, they'll have like a picture of somebody and they'll think it's me. It's like, that's not even me. So I think people are going to have their ideas about me, and it's none of my business.
Lauren, right here. Jim Grieshaber, MMA Weekly. To share this journey with Max, you've talked about this before with your son.
Yeah.
There was a time when you wouldn't let him watch you fight, but you started in the sport because of him. So as you win and as you keep moving up, I mean, what a great way to show your son how to win in life. Can you just talk about that journey and how that is for you as a mom with him?
Yeah, I think I said it like I think I said it last year, but I just don't know if I could have been a better example to him doing anything else, because he's gotten to watch me go through some really hard times. When Max was a kid, he had a rough childhood, and I wasn't in a great spot, and he kind of witnessed all that, and then he saw me, you know, start doing this thing, which it seems very violent and it seems kind of strange, but he saw me work really hard towards, you know, goals that I set for myself. He saw me achieve some of those goals, fall down sometimes, fall flat on my face, pick myself back up, try again, you know. And how could you be a better example to your kid than to do something like that, you know? Now that he's older, he'll be 20 this month. Now that he's older, he understands that. He didn't really when he was a kid, you know, and of course, like, I would never want him to watch something bad happen to me. You can never predict what's going to happen in a fight. But now he can see that and he can respect that, because it's like, man, my mom really tried hard to make something happen, and she worked at it a really long time, and she kept persevering even when things didn't go her way. And you know, now she's in a really good spot, and I think it's possible for him no matter what he wants to do in his life. And we actually have a really close relationship now. And yeah, I'm proud to make him proud.
What about for anyone out there who, I mean, you started 26 in this sport. It's crazy to think of the level that you've reached, because that doesn't happen every day, but it is proof for anyone out there that may think it's too late, or, you know, they missed the boat, or that ship has sailed, whatever you want to say. It never is.
Anything's possible. I mean, I walked into a gym, I smoked a pack of cigarettes a day. I was pretty heavy into pills. I drank a lot. And I walked into a jiu-jitsu gym one day and it changed my life. And I don't know, I say this a lot, but literally every good thing that I have in my life is because of jiu-jitsu. And that I think it's available to anybody, but I made a lot of sacrifices for it too, and I made a lot of tough decisions, and I've taken some heat, you know. It was a little hard. It was hard to hold my head up sometimes, but I came out the other side of it stronger, and that is all because of my experience in this sport. It was difficult, man. I walked into the gym, I was 26, with no athletic experience. And 4 years later, I was in the UFC fighting Olympians and title contenders and women that had been athletes their entire life. So there were some times that I stumbled and fell flat on my face. But like I said, man, it's failing forward. It's failing, daring greatly. So they're not really failures when you think about it like that. And I do think that is available to anybody in anything that they want to do.
Thank you.
Hey, Lauren, locally based fighter fighting in a big pay-per-view here locally. What does that mean to you?
Well, I actually moved to Texas a couple years ago. To 2019, we moved out to Texas. So, but it's really cool to be here in Phoenix, man. A lot of my old teammates are out here. A lot of good friends are out here. We've had guys like Sean O'Malley, Tinquino Mendez, some girls that are on the fight team at the lab, and they've all offered to help. Like, anything you need, let us know. It feels good because in a way, it does feel like home. I lived here for 5 years. We know where all the good spots are to eat. I've been to fights in the Gila River Arena before. Our house was like a mile from the arena that we're going to fight in. So I know that area, and it feels good to be back in Phoenix. And it's been really fun making good memories here.
Last one, just for fans, for people who've never experienced something like this, what can they look forward to? What about and even the hardcore UFC fans who are coming to this event? What's the spectacle like?
For the show or for the fight?
Everything.
Everything. Well, the UFC puts on the greatest show. They really do. Their production value is unmatched. And so even people that, have never been to a UFC, if you come to one live, it is an experience all on its own. Man, you don't even have to know any of the fighters, but I promise you that you will be into it, within the first couple fights. So the UFC does put on one of the greatest shows, on earth as far as I'm concerned. But the fight with JoJo is going to be violent. I think it's going to be high paced. It's going to encompass a lot of different aspects of the fight game. There's going to be a lot of clinch work. There's going to be some groundwork. There's going to be boxing and kickboxing. It's not going to be a boring fight, and it's probably going to be pretty bloody. That's what I think. One way or the other, somebody's going to be bleeding. So I think it's going to be an outstanding fight.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lauren, you mentioned you lived here for 5 years. What do you think about the state of MMA in Arizona?
I think it's amazing. We went to some local shows, like some of the smaller shows. What is that promotion out here called? Yeah, anyway, there's some local promotions out here that are bringing up and coming fighters. And I loved going to those shows because it's like you never know who you're going to see fighting like their second or third fight. And then 3 years later, they're in the UFC, and you're like, oh my God, that guy's going to be a superstar. But look at the fighters that are out here right now. Henry Cejudo, Sean O'Malley, Kyler Phillips, Mario Bautista. Benson Henderson, his wife is fighting now. Maria Henderson, y'all keep your eyes out for her because she's good. Yeah, there's a lot of great fighters out here. Phoenix is a hotbed for fighting for sure.